this is Sammy. So on the agenda, we are at the stuff for executive session. So I'm going to kind of give an overview of where we've been, where we're going, what we're doing today, and then how we're going to move forward, rolling these rules out and further rulemaking for the future. So everyone knows, as of June 8th, temporary license is in there. And as of June 8th, the board's license will be the thing. So that's what you guys were doing today, is putting those board rules in place. However, we heard from public comments that there are a lot of issues and or people that don't qualify for the license, for different licenses, that don't meet the qualifications for the different licenses, or there's not some kind of a carve up for them, like students or deaf interpreters or parrot interpreters or volunteers. So all of these other things that we still need to make allowances for, whether it be exception or extenuating circumstance, a different pathway to a license. And those types of issues will be moved to the rack, because we have to work within the notice that was sent in April. So there is one, I think that's good news. HLO is extending the waiver through December 31st. So people that don't meet the qualifications can go ahead and keep operating under the waiver while the RAC gets rules in place to kind of solve some of these other issues. One of the limitations is that some of the issues that came up in comments are things we can't change. They're in law and we just can't change them.
Hold it. You just want to play. Wake up.
Do a little timeout.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay.
So the issues that we can't change, that came up in public comment, as we go through the rules, I'm sure the board members will bring it up, and then I'll also interject in those areas. So without further ado, we'll make sure all this stuff here. So if somebody does decide, there's I think 1,000 licensees now, so if those 1,000 licensees decide to apply June 8th, they will reapply. They will pay the HLO established fee. If they decide to go under the waiver, they're just operating without a license. So, want to get the license, pay the fee, do the application. The RAC. So the RAC has met 3 times. I'm actually supposed to report this later, but I'm going to report it now, and I'll report it then as well. So they've met 3 times, and I've been working on provisional license. But all of these kind of separate issues that we can't deal with today will move to the RAC. The next time they meet is June 26th. So I'll give them an overview of all of this. I'll provide them with all the public comment that board received, the hearings officer report, so they're kind of up to date. Actually, a lot of my RAC members were on the call, so they're hearing everything. So without further ado, let's go to the rules. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to just walk through the rules.
Yes. Can I ask for clarification?
Yes.
I just want to clarify. So we will pay the fees for the licenses starting on June 8th. But we are making an extension. The extended waiver is until December 31st. So if we have a license now, you will need to pay the fees that are set. but the waiver means people can still work as interpreters without a license. Is that what I'm hearing? I just need clarification about what
Yes.
the fees and and extending the waiver.
Yes. Limited waiver, it's limited waiver on enforcement.
This is Heather. If you have a license now, then you have to reapply for a license starting on June 8th. And then if you reapply, you would pay that fee. So I didn't want you to think that because you have a license now, you are paying a fee for the license you have now. It would be a different license.
Yes.
Then you would board license, and you would pay for that fee. And then there's the limited enforcement waiver, which is limited, and that's been discussed in January as to the different aspects of that. So that would be out there.
Want to clarify? So if we change any rules after it's been established as a permanent license, those people that have a current license starting June 8th, do they have to follow the new rules when they change, right? Or when the vote boards to pass for the change, for any of the changing of the rules? People that currently have a license already, this license that they have, are the new rules going to apply to them?
Correct. The temporary license that everyone has now becomes invalid on June 7th.
So June 8th, after June 8th, these licenses are going to be permanent.
Yep.
So if I get a supervisory license and I pay for that, I have that, and then the board decides to change the current rules, how will I be holding a current license? How does that impact me as a person holding it? Is that a clear question?
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't, not as far as application requirements go and paying an application fee. You basically, once you get that permanent license, then you're in just the annual rotation of renewal. If then you change that you have to wear purple hats on Tuesdays, you know, you don't have to come back and meet that law. You're already licensed, moving forward, just renew.
So when I renew my license, or a person renews their license, at that point, I have to follow whatever changes have been established as rule before that. Does that make sense? So you're kind of grandfathered in before that.
An example.
So an example. So if we set up,
Okay. Mish CEUs, like maybe if you add CEUs or something.
okay, so if we add CEU as a requirement for a specific kind of license, and then the board decides that's what they're going to do. They're going to add specific CEUs for a specific license, and now it's a rule. But I had a supervisory license already, and then apply to renew. So the next renew after that, and so the board passes it to vote the new CEU requirement, and then when I go to renew my license, then I have to fulfill that new CEU requirement at renewal. Is that accurate?
Next June.
This is Colleen. I'm gonna need to have a better view of. Can you repeat, Jennifer, the sign?
So I just want to make sure that that is clear. So any changes to the rules that we do from here on out is
For the next year.
Really.
is really for next year. So, you know, this will actually, the new rules that we establish will actually apply for that. I don't know if that.
It'll apply to the renewal process next June.
This is Heather.
Go ahead, Heather.
We're talking about different rules, okay? So there's going to be qualifications for licensure rules. There's going to be rules that also apply to the conduct of licensees, such as you have to, comply with a particular ethical code, or that if you do certain things, you would be disciplined, or that type of thing. Okay, if you apply for a license, you need to meet the qualifications that are established in rule at the time. Okay, so whether you apply June 8th, or you're applying in August or next year, whatever those qualifications for licensure are at the time, you need to meet those qualifications for licensure. Once you hold your license, whatever rules are in place that apply to your conduct as a licensee apply to you. They're not going to apply in the future next year only. They apply at the time that you're a licensee. Okay. And then there's the other thing that a license is, even though it's a permanent license, it's only good for a certain amount of time. Upon renewal, you would need to meet any renewal requirements that are required, whether it's requiring a CE or requiring certain documentation. That would apply to you to be able to keep your permanent license. You need to be able to renew it by fulfilling the qualifications for renewal. Does that make sense?
Pause for the interpretation.
Colleen speaking. Uh, This is Colleen. I have mixed emotions. I do understand what we can do, what we can't do within the board. I do feel like HLO truly understands how the community feels with regards to one strong topic, which is finances and fees, and we're expected to push this without any input on that. I just feel like the board has no teeth to make a proposal here. And I just feel mixed about that. I feel similar to the community about fees. And I feel like HLO is just kind of shoving us into this option of fees. Bob, did you want to answer?
Well, HLO is, operates by the statutes. And during the legislative session, when HLO was asked, what is it going to take to operate this board financially? We had to come up with an estimate of potential licensees and how much we thought it would take to run the board. So we modeled it after another board who we thought it was going to be maybe 400 to 600 licensees. And so based on that is how the fees were derived. That was presented to the legislature when they decided to, or just prior to them voting the bill in. So they voted on that piece of information, the fees and the bill. So at this time, we're fairly locked in with the fees. And I asked the question, what can we do? And the question was posed back to me, well, how much revenue have you taken in? And since we haven't taken in any revenue, we can't go back to the legislature and say, well, this is what we expect it will be. We can't forecast because we haven't brought any revenue. We have approximately 1,000 temporary licensees. But there's some things to consider.
So you mean it's just cut it in half, basically?
I'm sorry? Oh, I
You
understand.
said that you predict 400 licenses, so, and you just mentioned you have 1,000. So did I understand that correctly? It was just double?
You understood me. However, there's some.
So you can cut it in half and still have revenue.
Well, there's some caveats. One is we don't know if those 1,000 will qualify once they have to apply for a permanent license. We don't know how many of those that are just not going to apply when it comes time for licensure. So a lot of them are from out of state. So we have no way to forecast.
Only guess.
And yeah, and the whole system is based on, guessing what we think it'll be. So I've heard a lot of discussion about going back to legislature, and that's fine. The professional organizations, individuals can go back. I am aware of some folks that have gone back to legislation and have expressed their concern. Potentially the information was a little exacerbated. Misguided, incorrect. Thank you, Sammy. So we're aware of some things happening. And then I heard somebody mention that that the 2025 legislation to take it back to legislature, then maybe that's a possibility. I don't know. And so maybe nothing's going to happen on that end until 2026. So it's a very long, drawn out process.
Only here.
Go ahead.
Now, looking at other states with licensures, trying to look at the statistics there as well. Let me repeat this. If you look at other states, look at how many licenses they have and how much they charge, and they're still operating. There's still overhead expenses included. But looking over here, the overhead expenses maybe shouldn't be included with putting the burden on the licensees to cover. So from my understanding, if you look at some of these comments, the cost of interpreters and other things, it shouldn't be part of the licensurer's responsibility. It's on you for some of the ADA accommodations.
I can answer that. Sammy will chime in without raising her hand. So the HLO model is built, the HLO model is built on not receiving any kind of general fund. I don't know what these other states receive for money from general fund, or is it all based on license fees?
Right.
So our model specifically is no taxpayer funds are coming to this agency.
The licensees.
The licensee is the taxpayer, correct?
So it's a Sammy. So also important, the way HLO was set up is that HLO itself doesn't have a budget. Each board has their own little individual account. It is charged. Lunch today, charged to sign language specifically. Heather, any legal advice, signed to this board specifically. Me, you get to divide me by 19 boards. So that's kind of the advantage of having been in this office is you get some of us for cheaper cost. But just to remember that HLO doesn't have this extra budget of money hanging out. It's each board has their own account. And so that's what they have spent.
And
And right now, you don't have anything to spend. So you haven't brought in any money.
so this is Bob. So I also in previous meetings had heard, oh, well, you have $100,100 that the legislature gave,
Say that now again.
$100,000. And that was what we were, there's a technical term for it, allotted, limitate, it was a spending limitation. So what the legislature had taken from what we provided them as how much it may cost to operate this board, said, okay, they have never done this before, but they said you get $100,000 to get this board up and running. And to be clear and candid, with this program, this board has expended over $50,000 of that $100,000. And we have to, they're expecting us to get through 2025 into the next budget with that limitation.
And also there was a comment from the board member. So
Well, we're volunteers, just letting the board, where did the $50,000 go? The previous 50,000.
Well, it's in my report later today. If
Rent, you gotta pay rent for this space. Heather, me, you gotta pay a percentage of all the staff. So 2.8% of me, 2.8% of Bob, 2.8% of Tina, Carrie, whatever the percentage is for small boards. I don't know what it is right now. And then direct costs, right? Rooming or legal costs, lunch for board members and RAC members, interpreters. So that's what it's been spent. Now remember, you only paid 2.8% for me and Tina and Bob. So instead of 100%. And I pretty much worked 100%.
Pauline speaking, so if we don't use interpreters, then our license would be cheaper, right? So the point is, right now, we all are expressing the same concerns for cost, and you're not even listening to us. The community is expressing this concern, and the board feels the same way. The feels are just, they're just too high, nothing's happening. Bob?
This is Bob, to respond to Colleen's parting comment. It's all but in statute. The fee is what it is today. Until we go back to legislature and say, hey, we overestimated, we want a reduction, and we have to justify the reduction. I'm hearing what you're saying. I've asked the questions, I'm monitoring what's happening, but my hands are tied.
Ish, just to clarify. Hi there, this is Mish. It's a short question. You said, Bob, that I hear you. I hear that your hands are tied as well, and I recognize that. Your comment about we can't do anything until it goes back to legislature and we tell them that we got to figure out the amount again. You're saying we. Does that mean you, HLO, or does that mean the board, or does that mean the community members? Who exactly has the power and authority to express this change in the future?
You all, we all, we can contact the legislature and ask for some time with them to bring issues with the current bill, current statute back for some maneuver.
For example, midwives, there was a time when their fees were $2,400 per year. the community went to the legislature and said, that's too much money. And they go, HLO, lower the fees. But at the end of the day, the legislature by law approves all fees collected for the executive branch. That's part of their job. There's what? It's 290, something, I looked it up the other day. So. And we had to lower that fee. Same thing happened with cosmetology and students.
But the opposite direction,
Oh.
cosmetology. They went up.
Well, no, before that.
Okay, Smith speaking. Thank you. So obviously, we, the board and the community members are interested in moving forward with that. But for now, we have 2.5 hours left of our time here today. And so I ask that we go ahead and refocus on what we can do today in this session. So thank you, Bob, for that information. Appreciate it. It's clear.
Interpreters are going to switch.
Colleen was saying, should we move on to number 4?
Yes, so I'm on this document. And this is kind of up to you guys how you want to go through them. It's the learning curve. This is the rules. And basically what I did is I went through all of the public comment and read it, and where there were things that were low hanging fruit that I thought that I would give you a suggestion, like removing secondary. That was a constant continued theme. So you'll see that I highlighted it and struck through it. So that's already kind of done. And then anywhere that's bold, there's something I have. So hopefully that will address some of the things that came up in comments. So we can just go through them in order, and then you guys just put them in, and you want to talk about something. Does that work? Want to start there? Yes. Okay. So under definitions, so page 1 of this document. You can share the screen. Okay. We good? Screen sharing. So this is the definitions. Now, usually how definitions work are you're writing rules and you see something comes up over and over again, and then you go back and you write a definition. So I wrote supervisor because in the comments, and I could be wrong here, it felt like supervisor had a lot of different terms, but I might be wrong. Mentor might not be supervisor. But there was just a lot of different ways that I think people were saying supervisor. So I put them all here, but I could be wrong.
Spirit.
Yes, go on camera. Get up there.
Or Jack. I'd seen in the public comments it came up, supervisor, awesome, you got that in there. They wanted a definition of supervision. So if we can add that to our definitions.
Audrey is saying I agree.
We'll need to figure out what that is. And I have some options.
There's no supervision required, but it's requirements yet. That's Mitch.
Remember, it's not required anymore.
May.
Eric, this is Bob. So Jack is participating in the meeting, and he's participating by email.
Oh, and he's monitoring by a video or phone, but
So-
he is participating to get his comments in through.
Yes. So he has, we'll get those off the teletype as fast as we can.
When you want me to sign on?
I don't know if he wants it. Yeah.
This is an email from Jack, who's participating from a distance. Thank you. Please review the fiscal impact report on the legislative website. The fiscal impact indicates that HLO gets $100,100 funding from OHA's other funds budget line. It also indicates that it does not authorize any full-time position nor contribute to any FTE. But that's not covered. Not only that, but HLO already issued over 1,000 licensees or licenses, which is more than their projected number of licenses issued. Please review the following chart for projected revenue from license fees. It will show that there is no reason for HLO to charge so much. Even if they reduce the cost of licenses, they would still meet their projected revenue. I have also created a suggested fee, though open to modification, but this is just an idea to start with. The proposal is there on the back. Do you want me to read what's on the? Okay, I see. The top, the label running horizontally, it's the fees according to each license type. So you have supervisory, generalist, provisional. So we have the fees versus what's recommended. There's two charts, one on the top of the fees, the second, the recommendations. So here, the supervisory, generalist, provisional, each of those recommended $75 fees, with educational being 25. Oh, and then there's also the one-time application fee would be reduced compared to what is currently recommended. So supervisory, generalist, and provisional would pay an application fee of $125 compared to $5 for medical, legal, and educational. The last column is kind of missing projected revenue. It was cut off in the printing, the process of printing, but it satisfied the projected revenue. Okay, this is from Jeff.
This is, I have the fiscal map right here, with the dates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, we're addressing Jack's comment. And
Yes.
HLO did not get $100,000 of general fund from OHA. We were given an expenditure limitation. It does not say where that money's coming from. It's a limitation. The fees are here, right in front of us.
You can blow that up a little bit.
I'm not.
It's in the volume. You mind blowing it up a little bit? Oh, thank you. You got it. Appreciate it.
My eyes are so bad, it's blurry. So if I may, the application fee should be a one-time fee. The renewals are what is incurred annually. don't have to pay there's no expectation that there is an application fee and a renewal fee every year. It's just upon initial licensure, you pay the application fee, the renewal fee. If you're getting a legal, education, medical endorsement, you're paying that. So for example, if your initial licensure application is $100, $200, your license is $100, and then you want to work in education, medical, for a legal interpreter, that's $350. It adds up the more endorsements you put on there. Tina?
And at this time, this is Tina. And at this time, we don't know how many individuals will actually apply and meet the qualifications. And until that happens, we can't do.
Just explain it. So another thing, and for the board, and this will be for the RAC too. The more you box in, or the more restrictive licensure becomes, that there's so many restrictions or qualifications. The more qualifications you have, the more difficult it's going to be to get people licensed. And so with that, that'll ease people getting in, and the fees, so the fees are set.
Can you see me on screen? You moving? Really? Are you serious? Okay. there you go. So in response to that, where you're saying you don't know, well, there are two things. We as the board, we want, if possible, we want to consider reducing the qualifications, because currently there's so many requirements, and it reduces the number of people who qualify for licenses, and the board's agreeing. And the other is those restrictions. If we loosen that, then more people could get licenses. And then also you're saying we don't know, but let's say 80 to 90% of the applicants, will they be applying by June 8th, which means, okay, then we'll have an idea of what funds we have. We can look at the results. And then if we prove, that those numbers were incorrect, could we possibly return some of what the applicants pay if we find that it's an error? Or does that money just get kept? I mean, what could we expect? Could maybe, if the numbers projected, if they get exceeded, could we get half of the funds after the fees?
So this is standard. I've been here 30 years. We haven't happened one time. It was actually before I came, right before, cosmetology had like $1 million over in the coffers extra. So we had to get rid of it. So everybody got like a $5 refund or discount refund, I think, I can't remember. And then they started the insurance pool governing hot. So it's where different professions can get healthcare insurance. So that's the only one time I've ever seen it happen. So it is possible. But also to note that most of the time in any budget is that there's some cushion, right? And usually it's a 3 to 6 month carry forward balance. But you wouldn't even know what that is until you have a kind of a full year, where you would start.
So this is Bob. But Sammy, I was just saying this. No, I didn't know that this had happened previously years ago. But I know there's fluctuation that we do have, but we do have to have a cushion. We have no idea what the regulatory piece is going to be. Complaints coming in to that, and again, that's if they go to a hearing. The further into the legal process they go, the more expensive it becomes. And the board pays those fees.
One of this little thing, if you've ever worked in government or anything government related, even a school, And you get to the end of the biennium and everyone's like, oh, spend, buy new furniture, because we've got this money to spend, because if you don't spend it, some of them take it. So that's also what considers. We had this big lump of pot. Legislature could go, we can't really take that. So there's all kinds of factors that we just don't know, because we're not the final say of the budget. It's a legislatively adopted budget. The end of the day.
We're going to switch interpreters.
And then that will get back on that.
Information.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Get back on task.
Okay, well, you want to address supervision when we, original?
I wasn't there, I didn't know how. To sign the time in now, with words, definitions, so.
Do you guys have an idea of what you want supervision to look like?
So I'm trying to summarize right now with that language. Previous language from when we started the bill. It's not changing.
Is it what you provided the agency?
Long time ago. Hold on.
Yeah, I would.
Read it out. Come up.
We're talking about supervision.
Right, supervising probation.
So previously, we had spoken about the word supervision. And the concept and the goal was very broad at that time. If needed, we can make that a little bit more narrow. But my proposal right now is that what we had for supervision written down was providing on-site, remote, synchronous or asynchronous support for a license holder or someone pursuing a license. This possibly may include mentoring, teaming, observing, or being observed, providing training, providing community of practice sessions, or volunteering for organizations whose missions advance the profession of sign language interpreters.
Sounds good. Derek?
Here,
I like.
I like your proposal.
I would like to make.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt that language for supervision.
What? Just supervision. You don't keep person required to be under supervision. Just provision.
Can you direct us in terms of how supervisor, where that comes in on what page it is?
It doesn't.
So there's provisional.
I'll have to add it.
Right, so currently there's no definition of supervision.
Correct.
And,
So I could put it, I would depend. Sometimes it goes just in the definitions, or sometimes it's more expanded and a board is more, said more things. But we go right into definitions.
So it's, that would be.
So I propose accepting the language. Colleen says I second.
A second.
Whoa.
Okay,
Do you want to approve each individual rule set?
do we want to vote individually on each rule, you mean? No.
Derek, so Sammy, you're asking, because we're gonna be talking about different definitions and everything. We could talk about all of them first and then make a motion to accept those that we've discussed.
That's the normal way we would do it, but we've done it other ways. Because sometimes half the board likes it this way, half the board likes it that way. But maybe not. So basically, we'll go through it. If you guys want to make a change, it's within the notice. There's some consensus. We get to the end. Rules with changes.
That way we don't have to stop this spot. That way we don't have to stop at each
I'll do
section.
this as Mish.
We can get through it.
Just making sure my grammar is right.
So.
So, it's Colleen. I'm gonna come on.
It would also go under.
I'm sorry to chew up so much time, but if we make a specific motion or an amendment or change, do we do that at the end? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or you can just
Okay,
approve all the rules and with the changes discussed during the meeting.
okay, I'm gonna shut my mouth.
So. Right now, when I look at the description of a provisional license on page 19. Under 1(b), may be supervised on-site or remotely. So you're wanting to, so the question is whether you want to further define that by adding in a definition of supervision. I just want to make sure we all understand what we would be doing.
Can I clarify? This is Audrey. But in the rules, it says it uses the word supervision. It doesn't use these rules under the rules, page 3. 1.3A, it says may provide sign language interpretation services only under the supervision of a licensed supervisory sign language. So it uses the word supervision and not this exact language. So we're looking at changing, replacing that language with this.
So what you just referred to was the statute, and that these provisional needs to be under supervision. And then what you would be doing in rule is further defining what supervision is. And currently, there's no definition of supervision. You just have the requirement may be supervised on-site or remotely. And then you would be adding in to clarify with further descriptive language as to what that supervision is. Just want to make sure that everyone understands what that looks like. Thank you. Yes, sir.
This is Eric. If I'm understanding correctly, with our definitions, the more specific it is, the more restrictive it is. And conversely, the broader or greater it is, the more wiggle room.
This is Mesh. I'm looking on page 19
Of the,
A and B.
A and B. Maybe we can delete B? Are they the same? Not exactly the same, but similar?
Well, A clarifies that, that they have to hold a supervisory language, and then B says supervision can be done remotely in person, excuse me, on site.
You mean replace B with the new language?
Sorry, Sammy, say again,
The
replace.
should we replace B with the new language?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, possibly.
We could.
Yeah,
So this is their,
go up front, please. Yeah. Yeah.
She's giving the interpreting the button.
And that-
Okay, we're on camera.
That's what I meant.
Hello, Eric here. I don't know if this is a popular opinion, but I think it might be best right now to keep all of the language definitions broad instead of getting specific. I'm worried that if we get down in nitty gritty with specific situations for that specific area and we're just too specific, it will become very limited. And if we keep it more broad, it can be and more vague. It can be a more gray area. For whatever would apply to, different settings, different situations or whatever, it'd be more applicable in more settings. So I guess I would propose that to our board.
I will say this,
That's Sammy.
the RAC is ready to define supervision. Their next job. So we're ready. That's part of our moving forward.
okay, if that's the case and the RAC's gonna be discussing it, I also suggest we don't waste our time because they got things that the RAC's gonna address.
But we need it for the rules.
But we need it for we need it for the rules today, correct?
You have something now. Correct. Yes, but you have something.
So for the rules today, let's move forward with that language, and then the WAC can affect it.
For that.
So the language as is,
Maybe supervised on-site or remotely. It may have more than one supervisor.
Feel it's very limited.
You have other language.
I would want to add synchronously or asynchronously at least. Have enough supervisors
Right.
to be in really quick. So if we could add it to be maybe supervised on-site or remote synchronously or asynchronously. In educational situations, there might be one license holder working with many people who have professional, and it's not possible for one generalist license to be in 5 different classrooms. Like
so,
synchronously.
so would the expectation be that the supervisor is in our classroom with additional or another licensee supervising them, or would it be preferable that, so one supervisor potentially, let's say, have one rural school and they have people that they're supervising and they don't have to, they're not in the room with them. The individual is just reporting back to them.
Right.
And periodic set-ins to observe what's going on, making sure that
It's indirect.
The way this
That's what we
is,
want, indirect.
is it gives, they can do indirect, right,
Right.
or meet every week, or maybe once a month. The supervisor is basically,
And that's how it is.
that's how it's worded today. That's how I would interpret.
Is that how it's interpreted with say?
Yes. That's how HLO would interpret. That's as broad as you can get.
Because it doesn't say.
You could say, maybe
Get up there,
supervise,
please finish on camera.
say remotely, indirectly, or directly.
Sorry,
I keep trying to clarify. Last question is, so
over more, Mitch. Can you scooch it to the screen more? Thank you.
Careful.
So Sammy is saying currently the language shows on paper. It's broad, which means it could be direct or indirect. So it can mean synchronous or asynchronous. Is that what it means?
Yes, we could be more specific and
Okay,
say
great.
direct or indirect as well. Add those in if you wanted to make it super clear. But the way each of them would see it is the supervisor decides.
So,
So the word synchronous and asynchronous, it's confusing for me as a teacher, as a, teacher model, like we are not mentoring at the same time. We might be emailing back and forth some communication. So I think that could be, included with a supervision definition. But direct or indirect for me is more clear. I'm either on site, I'm working together with the interpreter, or I'm mentoring them, outside one-on-one. Does that feel clear to everybody?
that's the best. Yeah, that's good.
Let's have some plain, nice language. This is Holly. Thank you, Audrey. I appreciated that clean language. Plain. Plain.
So B is where it's at.
Yeah, just leave it as is, right?
The
Yes.
proposal would be at the end of going through the rules, when you make the motion to either adopt them or not, that the new language on page 19 under 1B would include indirectly or directly. So it can be supervised on site or remotely, indirectly or directly, something to that extent that Sammy would wordsmith, that it would have that.
See if you like this. Yeah. Trying to use this, okay.
Yeah.
What if you just do maybe supervise on site or remotely, directly or indirectly, may I have more than one supervisor? Yep.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay.
One done, yay. Okay, what? This is coming on to the next, yes?
Let's backtrack to page 3. They're just quick ones, just want to push your eyeballs on them.
Understand, share your screen.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you want to share page 3, that would be nice too, because we can.
Yeah, I can do that.
But they don't see the interpreter.
They still do.
Oh, are they still seeing the interpreter in the public with Sandy sharing?
No, they can only basically see Sammy's screen is big.
Oh,
They can-
Well, they can see it just like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks just like this.
Okay.
This is a specific view. They could change to a side by side
Yeah.
where they can see the videos.
Yes, they can change it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they-
Thanks for explaining.
So this is just, so Sammy, chair and vice chair that may be elected annually. Elections must be held last board meeting of the year, so we'll bring you that issue statement, the responsibilities and all of that at the end of the last meeting of every year. This is basically what's happening today. since they're can't complete the job today. Only just do it. Then duties of the chair and vice chair would be to help with the agendas, provide the feedback, how the meeting would go. All of those. Here are your exemptions, which pretty much exactly what's in the law now. And then this is where in future board meetings, we look at, say, exception for students or volunteers, I don't even know what one might be, but something that you would, or having an extenuating circumstance for a different foreign language signer. So that's where this kind of stuff will be, and we'll be moving that to the rack.
Oh, perfect.
It's gonna be very busy. And I suspect that we're gonna probably do things in chunks, but, you know, I don't know. It's only simple. So this is the description of supervisor. So this is exactly what it says in the law, can provide services. You may supervise, you don't have to supervise, but you may. You can provide services in educational setting, medical setting, legal setting. You renew once every year, or you become inactive last day of the month. Issuance can be renewed. Here's the qualifications for supervisory. So an HLO form, yeah, B18, that's all in statute. Be in compliance with the NAD and the RID, Code of Professional Conduct statute. Submit proof of having at least 3 years qualifying experience for one of the following credentials. So all of this stays the same. And based on comments, I heard, and hopefully I'm doing this right. But this is how I saw it always written out. RID, EDU, K through 12 certification, RID reverse school certification.
Colleen is shaking her head no.
Well, that's why you're here.
Miss?
To tell me what it's supposed to be.
Can we start with K through 12? Yeah, go on up and go on up.
And there were lots of comments about it.
Mish, just want to clarify what it means, K through 12 certification. K through 12 certification. So an RID certification kind of uses the EIPA. We already have the EIPA on our list for sign language. The K through 12 accepts sign language and cued speech. So if we accept K through 12 certification, that is out of bounds of our law. That doesn't, it's not a certification just for sign language interpreters. It's because it includes cued speech and sign language interpreters. For that reason, I feel that we can't accept the K through 12 certification. We already have the EIPA and with, you know, that falls under the sign language interpreter. So, Tammy has her.
Take it away, Tammy. Deliver your message.
Hi, Tammy. Hi, this is Tammy. I have been in communication with RID about this actual subject. First, it's called the Ed K-12, so you can take out the U. The Ed K-12, and it is a specialist certification, according to RID, a specialist certification specifically in K-12 settings, and the testing requirements for the Ed K-12 and the NIC are different. They don't have any metrics that show that the EIPA, even at a 4.0, matches the NIC. There is no proof of that. They have no testing that they've done. They have no research that they've done. So on a slightly different subject than this, to say that a 4.0,
We have,
pardon?
We do have research.
I can't hear you.
Mish is coming up for a response.
Okay.
Just to clarify, there is actual research out there. We have 2 research articles saying the EIPA 4.0 for sign for PSE and ASL matches about a 4.0. And then is about that for a NIC. Sorry, did you say that? Yeah. Okay. It matches the NIC certification. And then there's another article that says that EIPA, sorry, I'm not being clear. I'm gonna back up. So there's 2 research articles in regards to the EIPA 4.0 related with ASL and PSE. There's an assessment of both of those. And one article says it's an it equals the NIC. The EPA 4.0 equals the NIC. And then there's another article that says the NIC is equal to 4.2 of the EIPA. So there is very limited research, yes, but it is out there. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, if you could send those to me, those would that would be great. But RID does not have that. They say that that they don't have anything that correlates the EIPA with the NIC. So I don't know that we can include the Ed K-12 in there as a supervisory level. It's recognized as a,
So this is Sammy. So if we go back to the law, it says that the board can determine the minimum qualifications for a supervisory license. If the board determines that, especially at this time, new profession, I don't know if there are people that this is how the only way they would qualify, to leave it in for now and then take a look at it after licensing has been happening for a while. I mean, it's kind of like supervision.
There's no way
It's make it as broad as we can. Like I said, I don't know how many people wouldn't qualify if we didn't have it in.
Who said
Audrey was saying something. This is Audrey. So the point is Mitch was trying to make is there is other ways for them to qualify if they have the K through 12 Ed K through 12 certification. So if they get a EIPA 4.0, that would meet the criteria on our list.
So did we just take something else?
And then it's time for our interpreters to switch. And can answer.
Okay, this is Colleen. Tammy has a comment.
this is Tammy. I think we need to go with the recognized certifications that RID has. And those recognized certifications, that includes the reverse skill certificate, but in general, all the way through all of our rules and these things, I think we need to have what RID recognizes. For us to say one way or the other, we think this is more and this is less, then we have interpreters going, okay, so this is accepted in all states except Oregon. So and I'm not saying it very clearly because I am homesick. So I just want to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible for interpreters to follow all the rules and the laws and be appropriately licensed, and know what to expect. And the Ed K-12 is it's a qualification, not a certification.
Colleen, comment. Okay, so regarding the RSC and education, now RSC, I have a strong feeling that RSCs shouldn't be accredited for because there's no performance. So how do you show their qualifications for RSC? The provisional that was given out recently had no measurements at all. So I had verification this morning with Callie. With regards to RSC, there is no assessment that was done for the RSC. So I feel like it doesn't show qualifications or skills when it comes to performance measures for RA.
Audrey's saying I want a clarification. You said that the certification, the RSC is temporary, the temporary license passed, right?
It was used in the past as a way to, this is history right here. It was given out, let me see, I don't know if I would want to say this on the record. It was given without any performance measures to screen their qualifications. So we're strongly against including the RSC. And I know it doesn't impact anybody today in Oregon. I don't think anybody has RSC right now. So it doesn't impact anybody, but it's already on record. So that is a preventative measure. So I'm thinking the two should be.
We should get rid of both of those.
Yeah. Because right now it doesn't impact anyone. It's just standalone because people have the EIPA. Am I right? Everybody's looking around the room.
Audrey's saying, I think so. Tammy was following.
Tammy, do you want to follow up?
Yeah, hi, love you. My only thing is for simplicity's sake, for interpreters to know how to follow the laws and the licensure requirements is if we say everything but the RSC, so if we take everything RID lists and accepts, except for the RSC, then does that just make it more difficult for other people? And I don't know how many people that would impact across the country. I mean, it was given a long time ago, so in theory, if those people have that, then they've been interpreting for a while, so their skills have gotten better. I don't know. I'm just saying that do we want to try to second guess our national organization by saying we're not going to accept something that you accept? Question. And thank you for interpreting for me because my brain can't do it right now.
Hello, Eric again. I feel like Tammy's comment right now is the same thing we could say through Ed K through 12. If we accept any RID certification, then why not accept all of them? Why are we excluding one? And I understand the RSC and how that makes an impact, but no one here in the state has. I mean, this state, people do have the Ed K through 12. People maybe included in supervisory positions have the Ed K through 12. So why are we excluding that? I mean, that means for me, for example, I know that there's 2 interpreters in my area who have the Ed K through 12, and both of them have 25 plus years experience. And they both follow the CEU requirements. They already have a 4.0 or above. So they would definitely qualify. So whether or not we keep it or eliminate it, I mean, they qualify as supervisory. So it's like right now, as RID recognizes certified interpreters, they're doing more than your everyday K through 12 interpreter. So if they're doing more, then why not just accept it? Thank you. There's 2 comments related to the K through 12. Again, my only concern has to do with cute speech. That's the reason why I'm a little, it's not only just sign language we're talking about. The other item, there's a discussion about just following RID's format. Now, RID, their certification has a long history. They're a national organization. Those who pick the certification are members themselves. They influence the certified. And so their organization, their history, their process is different than ours. Their duties are different than ours. We're talking about a state board here who just was implemented and has access to new information, has access to research. We have access to RID, what they've learned from their process throughout the years. So we can actually glean that, but it doesn't have to be, we go along with whatever RID considers. So I'm a big supporter of RID. Obviously, I've been involved in their board for 4 years. I respect their, hats off to them, but we can learn from their process without just having to follow them without other considerations.
This is Tammy. Can I?
Tammy?
So here's the interesting thing. When you go to RID's website, it talks about, and I'm working on one computer because my other one died. It lists and it shows when you go to lists of previously offered RID certifications and the ones that they are not administering, but they still recognize, the Ed K-12 is not listed there. Okay. Mostly because they didn't offer the test. They didn't proctor the test. They didn't create the test. Boys Town EIPA did. So then when you go to their certification page, it says certifications under moratorium, and that's where it lists the Ed K-12. So where does that put us? Does that put us that RID recognizes it or doesn't recognize it?
Okay, Eric?
There again. RID collects their membership fees. RID calls them certified interpreters. So if they call them certified interpreters, why won't we accept that? If we accept any EIPA above 4.0, let me back up. And here there's this resistance because of cute speech. But no one in my area, I mean, we're talking about Southern Oregon here, has cute speech as their EIPA certification. So it's kind of a moot point, really. And I do understand Mish's concerns and comments in other areas, and maybe they have a cute speech. Maybe we need to expand on that later and give that to somebody else to take care of. Maybe give that to the RAC to take care of. But I don't know. I mean, if you call them certified interpreters, does that mean they have more supervision? Or if it means they can act as supervisors? Because right now, as we spoke earlier, there's just not enough supervisory roles. And so if we eliminate that, that'll decrease the amount of supervision possible. Well, not really, because they're qualified with the 4.0. So
Audrey, right, that. Mish, it seems redundant. Again, it just seems
Right.
redundant.
right. So I'm not really sure we want to fight this. It's just
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and this is Tammy. And so I'm looking at
we
RID.
can just go ahead and move on from this.
Sure. I see where RID lists the cute speech. I've taken the EIPA. I don't know where cute speech would come in there. I mean, they don't, it's definitely not on the test. So I don't know where they would say, I mean, how they're approving that. RID says, and at least one of the following visual language or constructs, and it lists ASL, manually coded English, PSE, and cute speech, but I don't know.
This is Colleen. I think we should just kind of leave it as is for now.
So in or out, in.
We'll go ahead and remove it. We already know that they've tested 4.0 to be able to work, so we're good there. Yeah, move on to the next item.
Heather, at
So-
the end, when the motion is made, it would include that A and I be removed. That's on page 8. A and I would be removed as would be part of the motion for what the motion would be.
A and L.
Thank you.
Aye.
But
Yeah, that's nice.
No, it's an L.
Okay, L.
This
It's
is,
an L, right? Okay, yeah. She was. I can do the alphabet. It's an L.
so this is Tammy. Before we leave that, is that for sure what the board decide? It's hard for me to tell because I'm not in the room. Did we definitely decide both? of them, or we're both?
It's mixed. I don't think it's like we've all said yes, but I'm moving forward.
They're speaking out, fine with it.
Out. Okay.
So,
yeah,
yeah,
okay.
this is calling, let's move forward. Yeah, we'll remove that. We'll make a motion to remove that.
Okay, removing RID, Ed, K-12 certification, RID, first skill certification. Okay, next page. There were some comments about adding the NAD level 3 back in. I took it out and then some wanted back in.
For me personally, I'm neutral on this. I'm not experienced enough with NAD3. However, I do want on the record, before the license bill passed, ORID collected information, reached out to the deaf community with several interviews regarding what a different certification meant was minimum qualification. And each comment was related to NAD3. They said, no, NAD3s do not qualify. And that was standard. That was unanimous, actually, for all the feedback that we got regarding NAD3s. So I do want to honor that for the record. Just making a statement. Yeah, this is calling. I hear you, Mish. You're right. I'm also neutral with regards to NAD3. That test is no longer offered, but from my understanding, the NAD from previous years was a performance test, and I say we leave it at that. Because the other two I have strong opinions on, there was no performance measures, but NAD did have a performance measure, and that's a minimum. So I say we leave it. And it's not even offered today for the new generation. So I say we just honor it because they did the hard work, they earned their stripes. Let's leave it alone.
Mish says that's fair.
Mish agrees. Okay, we'll leave it.
We're gonna switch the interpreters. Okay, that's fair.
Anything, okay, let's remove that, yes.
Secondary off, okay, this was like the biggest one.
We all say remove it, think there's no great.
Perfect.
We heard the community.
Just wanted to just throw something out there. I don't think it's relevant now, but we did receive word from the IPA that it's taking them a very long time to grade tests. And I actually looked into the RID and the TEP, and they're like 90 days. So there is a turnaround time for all of them. But since we have the waiver, I don't think we should do anything. But looking ahead, if somebody has taken the test, they don't have their score, we might look at doing, giving them the license, and then before they renew, as a condition of renewal, they submit their passing score. So that's just something that we'll have about. So
Only thing I do have a comment on that.
we don't need it now, because we have the waiver. But in the future, if we see that this not having the passing score for a long, long time, and you need to start working, we give you the license, you to test that you took the test. And then before the next renewal, by the next renewal, you would submit. As a condition of approval.
And because this is Eric, I had wanted to ask at some point about extenuating circumstances and if waiting for a test would count as one. But if you're saying they can be awaiting a test score and still get a license, like,
We think that is possible.
This is Heather. So that's not written in here at all right now, but it's something that could be a consideration for the future, depending on what's happening on the turnaround.
Colleen, I do have a comment in regards to this.
Yeah, so Sammy, yes, this is Colleen speaking. I agree with you and I feel that it's good to have some kind of letter regarding the testing and the testing date. Getting a confirmation of payment maybe. I feel that that would be enough evidence to renew. I know we have no control over the testing, locations and the timing, but there we have the verification letter stating, that they've paid or whatever, then we know it's in process. In my opinion, then that's enough for renewal. And then maybe we could add that to the rules that we heard. We have no control over the testing timeline. Bob?
Was that initial licensure or renewal?
Both. Yeah, currently for the initial and for renewal.
I'm sorry, I
So
missed it.
I missed. Here, let me clarify. Bob had asked if this was just for the initial application, that we could use that letter, that verification letter in terms of testing in process or for renewal. And my response is for both. What loophole are you discussing? Come and explain it. Yeah, you have some concerns?
Yeah, you never understand.
I think that we might be scared.
Okay, Mish, I want to clarify something. So you're talking about letters saying, I did take the test or the assessment. You could use that letter for application and for renewal. You could use that for each year.
Right. If they took it for the first time and they failed, they could sign up for a second iteration of the test, second time of taking it. And then they failed again.
That's loophole. They can't- No, but they could keep renewing it forever and ever.
With the limit of the renewal time is what I'm saying. Because you can only renew what, 2 times and 5 times?
So that means that someone that really doesn't have the skills, maybe they have an EIPA 2.2 and they just keep submitting and.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. That background is keeping it on us. Calm down. Okay,
Do I have permission to move
do you
the
have permission
webcam?
to move that?
Whatever.
Okay. So your point, that's a good recommendation, but without them taking advantage of the loophole, how do you propose we go about it?
I have strong opinions about accepting anyone without already having their EIPA. I don't support that letter. Because we already know that a 3.5 means that they're not qualified. So just proving that they took the test, I wouldn't vote to support that.
Even if it's their first time taking the E EIPA?
No, because right now, well, this discussion, we're not talking about exemptions or extenuating circumstances. I recommend that we save this for the rest
I
of the
mean, we
meeting.
could try. My feeling is that those people who are testing and they're not very, don't do very good their first time, and they take it the second time and they are successful, without the 1-year cycle, maybe they could take it 1 or 2 times. Like maybe we put a limitation on it. And the letter says they took the test for the first time.
But the results we don't want, interpreters who aren't passing and not qualified interpreting for children. Sammy?
We have to waiver, we don't have to worry about it now, so I'll move it to the rep.
We're gonna have that discussion later. It's gonna be a hot topic. I promise you that.
Well, mission thing, but also working with children. Anyway.
I get it, I get it. We'll hold it.
Where are we?
Then I kick off again as far as folded. On that
Right
bottom
off.
page 11.
Yeah. Take it out for generals. Nope.
Yeah, we're removing that, right?
Yeah.
That's Colleen.
And leaving the NAD,
Yes,
Yes.
leave that.
taking out secondary.
Yes.
Marking these, so I can go back through for you guys. Before we vote. Now we're to the education. So I had a lot of comment, you had a lot of comments about sign language interpreter education. Interpreters need to be supervised, but that is not. Don't need it. This is just clarifying that, doesn't have to be here. But a lot of people thought
What did the rules
Oh,
say?
the provisional. Education doesn't mention supervision at all.
right.
It's just.
Sorry, interpreter miss.
Do we need to add that comment? Are we just asking to, Tammy, what's going on here? We being asked to clarify this?
No, no.
So,
In the comments, several people said, education interpreters need to be supervised. And I'm saying, no, they don't.
maybe that probably, that was what we were, I was asking Audrey to clarify, is if there was public comment that's.
Yes, there was.
Required.
Yes, there was.
But is that enough to add language in the rules?
Not enough to add language in the rules. Doing, need it.
It says if it helps to clarify, then why not?
And Eric's saying, I thought they were better. I thought that-
Unless later we decide. Wait for.
I'm having trouble hearing in the room. I don't know if someone's changed volume.
Sorry,
or something, but
Audrey's coming up.
And my point is that maybe it's better. Maybe it's better to just document, put a sentence that maybe later there will be another alternative path for future interpreters in training in educational settings. And we can add SAP supervision in that process. But the rule, if it just says you don't need supervision, period, well, that conflicts with what would come later down the road. I'm just trying to look down the road and predict. So I would suggest.
I agree with that,
not
Colleen
adding
saying,
language,
I agree.
to not adding.
Commission saying, do not, yeah, don't add that clarification about the, not required to work under supervision. Commission says, I agree. I agree with that, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Page 14. So this is it's educational license application requirements. It's just extra words that I don't know how to put in there. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a typo. All of this was correct.
just for clarification, number 4. Is that just an attestation? Submit proof of being in compliance with the code of conduct?
Hold on.
Right, is there,
How do we prove that? Is there an ethical test that can prove you have ethics?
It's somewhere. HLO somewhere. I know me and Heather were on it.
This is Tammy. That's on all of the licenses, isn't it? Submitting proof of,
The green time for interpreter switch?
Thought we wrote something.
What I was thinking, and I obviously probably need to write this in there, is that HLO would accept an attestation. We vote that. So they give them-
And specifically here, let me get on the camera.
Eric's coming up. That neat.
Oh, me.
You know what? Are you gonna be signing?
Oh, that's right. Okay, it's Eric again. So. Oh, okay, right. So we're talking about education. It says complies with NID RID Code of Professional Conduct, the CPC. Right now, the lead organization that supports educational interpreters is NAIE, the National Association of Educational Interpreters. Interpreters in Education. Thank you. So NAIE, they are the ones who really are doing the work right now connected to educational interpreting. But this says NAD RID. That's, I mean, we can include NAIE as well. But should we? For educational interpreters, they must follow the RID CPC, or do they follow the NAIE CPC? Or it's just a thought that I wanted to put out there, so.
Looking around the room.
You're right on the nose there, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, sorry.
Heather wanted to say something.
The statutory language, educational license is that demonstrates compliance with the Code of Professional Conduct authored by the Registry of Interpreters for the Deaf or its successor organization. And the National Association of the Deaf or its successor organization and approved by the state board. So they have it in statute that those were the ones that they were considering. That may have been something they considered, but doesn't mean you can change it with the legislature in your own professional capacity. Or organization capacity.
I'll give that all to you, Eric.
Is an additional. Awesome. I will say the RAC went over this and they thought that it was similar enough. But I can always bring it back to them and go.
Okay.
The reason I'm kind of, because a lot of education.
Go on there. Eric's coming up, yeah. Eric again. The reason I say that is because many K-12 interpreters are not RID members. They just aren't. So the members of one organization, we're accepting their CPC, but maybe not the other CPC from the organization that they most of the time are involved with. It seems like a fun. Also, I understand that's how it was written in the law. So, you know, there's no argument here. just putting that out there.
Dan,
General knowledge.
Dan,
was also discussed. That was my concern. That was- But, it is open to public, anybody can see it. And I think a solution would be, say something like, HLO will accept attestation that you're following this as meeting the application. Because that's really, if you're doing it, let's say you get a complaint and broke one of those codes of conduct, then it's gonna, it's gonna come around in that way. So, does that work? And I can bring
Colleen's
it up to
nodding
your
her head.
back.
Yeah, what do you think, Eric? Eric goes, sure, yeah.
Audrey's saying, I'd like to clarify something.
Just doing it.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify that the licensure is not, even if they're not, many license holders are not RID members. So it's, they're qualified for the license. You don't have to be a member. So the ethical standards that you follow, it doesn't matter if you have a license or not, you're still following, whether you're an RID member or not, you're still following those ethical standards.
Go ahead, Bob.
In addition, we have under our ORS HLO, 676-612, which also requires people to act in specific ways, not to be fraudulent and other things. So it's pretty well covered on that front.
Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Oh, papers. My paper's up there. Next, moving on. Yeah, I'm good with that. When it says, moving on. Let's just leave it to the rack. I support that as well. It's up there.
Strong enough.
Need to keep going. They just need to keep on.
Hey,
moving, says
Colleen,
Eric.
saying, shh,
Can I
shh.
put it, this is not the exactly right language, but something along these lines. But I think the appropriate thing would be to add this under all the licenses where you find. That you're
Where all
gonna
the
attest to having
licenses
the following needs. So supervisor, generalist, education.
Can you scroll down?
Colin said yes. Yeah, can we scroll a little bit?
That's not the perfect one. Right? We're saying attestation is you demonstrate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Working it all.
now we're to medical.
So are we moving down? Okay, sorry, Sam.
Yep.
Page 15, so this is who they are and have to be provide medical in a medical setting. It's a one-year license, get it out. It can be renewed, unlimited renewals. You have to be a oh, that's not. Yes. So application requirements. Submit a form, hold an active SLI supervisory or generalist, no disciplinary action. Financially would obviously check that. And then submit proof of holding one of the following credentials. Hold on.
And I've got Eric's got to stand up and Colleen says, hold on a second.
And I know that HCI is.
Okay, go ahead.
Knows that
Go
I.
ahead, Sam.
Submit's not spelled right.
Okay.
Submit is not spelled right on number 4. It's 100%.
So that's me.
That's.
And Colleen's just clarifying What was spelled wrong? Oh, submit, said submit, okay.
Go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead. Okay, if you're looking at A, it says certification in ASL interpreting from RID. K-12 RID certification. So means that we have to get rid of the K-12 as well. Because if we do that, it means one less interpreter in my area for medicine. Because it's an exemption. Oh, sorry. Pauline said it should be an exemption. But that's my, part of why I'm struggling a little bit here is because we have been accepting RID K-12 as certified. And it's RID certification already. So back in 2020, when they set up, when OHA set up the medical interpreting license, they accepted any RID certification, including that K-12. It was any. So my area, we have people with RID Ed K-12 certification that OHA already qualifies them to be a medical interpreter in the area. So meaning if we accept RID, any certification, we have to include that at K-12 here. So, but why not with education? If we're talking about changing that language. If we remove it from education, then again, we'll have a negative impact on my region. So that's why I'm kind of iffy. I wanted to emphasize that, you know, discussion about the Ed K-12 RID certification, because it will have an impact. At least for people in my region. So. Because the language is kind of vague there. So it's like we have specific for one license, but then we're getting rid of it for another license. We're allowing it. It's either all or nothing, I think, is what it has to be. Pauline, go ahead. Stay.
This is an endorsement. To an already existing license.
How do we prevent that negative impact? What would you say we could do to resolve it? How can we set up a standard? Do you think it should be an exemption or? Thank you.
Thank you. I've been thinking about this the whole time, like how, you know, how can we keep those few people
Right.
that have that medical license and still also honor the educational setting? So with our discussion with the ed license, it seems clear, you know, like 4.0 or above, or sorry, excuse me, not the educational license, the supervisory license. We were talking, it said, oh gosh. That license, we were getting rid of the ed K through 12. We thought, oh, that would be fine, you know, because the 4.0 or above is enough. But with OHA, their license, it said we accept any RID license certification. So that means if we keep those interpreters for the exemption, that's fine. I would recommend an exemption. Or if we follow just this, that means that they're already included and already have a license. So that means we could leave it as is, meaning, you know, there is no negative impact. However, I'm sure the community will be like, so why are you going to accept the ed K through 12 in this setting, but not in this other setting? So you know what I mean? That's just.
Help me understand where we're at. So in order to get this license, you have to be a supervisor or generalist. You guys said no and K through 12. So you have that whole list of things that you can do. Are your people qualified for all that list? someone that they're qualified in there, right?
So yeah, the distinction is that with the distinction.
Let's share.
The distinction is that with the supervisory license, it's saying 4.0 or above. And my people meet that.
So they got the
So-
supervisor.
So that's why I'm like not worried. If we remove Ed K-12 for that and accept 4.0 or above, it's the same result. For this, it's saying we'll accept any RID certification to include Ed K-12, right? Because that was, I mean, I should say that is what OHA has already done. They've already accepted Ed K-12 as a certification. And so, as it's written right now, you can have an Ed K-12 RID certification, meaning you got it between 2009 and 2016. You're recognized by RID as a certified member, and you qualify under OHA's rules. I know that's separate, but this says from certification in ASL interpreting from the RID. And so an Ed K-12 person satisfies that requirement. But we just earlier were saying that same certification doesn't satisfy the supervisory rule.
We're gonna do
But there's other rules it does satisfy. So I just wanted to clarify, do we need to make the distinction? Like right now it's vague and it's inclusive of all. So I'm like, but I'm sure people in the community will say, but wait, why are we accepting it for the medical license? And we went through that whole effort to remove it from the supervisory and general license. We accept all the other certifications except that.
But it doesn't.
We'll do an interpreter.
Hold on, we're gonna do an interpreter switch before any more comments.
This sounds like work. HLO needs to know something. Yeah.
You think we could get a bathroom break?
A caption needs a break.
Okay, thank you. 5 minutes.
This is calling 5-minute bathroom break.
It's a hot seat.
So we'll be back at 12:05.
Oh.
Oh, 2:05.
It's like, you're wrong.
2:05. You're 2:05. So Tammy, I see you have your hand up, but also Sammy has her hand up, so I'm gonna do Sammy and then Tammy.
So this is Sandy, so, Christina Healy, she was on earlier. She provided, food for thought, some, alternative language, which was current if betraying. See, I told you I went through this. Bloodborne pathogens, attest to having 20 hours of education, healthcare, and one of the above. The HCI registration or certification commission healthcare interpreter. Interpreter certification, or the qualified guide. So that's an alternative.
Colleen is agreeing. Tammy, I see your hand is raised, but I just want to comment because it is in regards to what Sammy just said. I do like having those broader options. If we could replace that restrictive one of the law, like how it's written for the medical license. I don't know if we could do something like that instead of, all this RID stuff. Is that possible to be replaced? I'm not sure. So Tammy, what is your comment now?
Do we just need to go back to, as far as which certifications we're accepting and stuff, to what RID has listed on their website as what they recognize?
Medical. So I think what Christina was saying is that this is a different certification, different.
Colleen is nodding her head.
So what additional things would this person need to know to be providing services in any medical setting?
Colleen is nodding
Right.
her head, yes.
I'm thinking for each of the languages in general, or sorry, each of the licenses in general.
Well,
if-
hold on, it's still being recorded. It's good.
It's thinking.
It's the camera. I have to switch it.
Rebuffering.
Okay, go ahead, Tammy.
Are we done buffering? Are we
Yeah.
done? Yes, okay. So for each of the licenses to accept what RID has listed. And then add the language like something like Christina said. The medical, I can't speak specifically to medical because I don't work in medical, so I don't know what the requirements are for that. But when Eric mentioned not having some licenses included or some certifications included and others not, that maybe that we just need to, in general, over all of licenses, go back to, we'll take anything that RID lists.
Is there
Audrey, this might be better.
a list of everything?
What was that, Sammy?
Colleen, are you talking for the specialty medical? No. So there's kind of like, there's different third-party companies or organizations that we can include for the medical licensure, but they're not through RID. You know, she just missed, what did she say? HIPAA. You know, like the OCHI, the QMHIT, those are other ways to be recognized as a skill for medical interpreting, but they are not through RID. So I guess what we need to be thinking about, like what Eric was saying, his concern was we already have supervisional and generalist. And you know, the medical is that should be following those same rules instead of going all back to RID all the time. Or are we going to use those as proof for supervision and generalist? That way it won't push out anything if we follow the accuracy for those medically trained interpreters. I mean, I would like it if we allowed that to be within our ability.
So does this even need to say certification in ASL interpreting from RID, because this is it's an endorsement in addition to their supervisory or generalist license?
I mean, if it's the same.
Audrey.
You're qualified for generalist or supervisory through another mode than RID. It could have been through the EIPA. It doesn't necessarily require that it be through RID.
Interesting. So, Tammy? Are we at standstill? How many people would that impact? 1, 2 people right now?
Eric, I say we leave it as is and move
So
forward.
leave it as is right now. This was Eric. Let's just leave it. And then we could change it later. We could get that changed later, and then the rec can look and edit, remove things later. So right now we'll just leave it as is. Mitch, I'll let you take the floor.
Interpreters.
I'm just thinking about this. So when the bill was written some time ago, HCI was set up and the bill was written to honor HCI. However, what I understand, now HCI is watching what we do as a board to see what we decide. And if we leave it the way it's written, just as is, that means it's the same as the generalist and the supervisory, right? So at minimum, I think we need to add the 60-hour requirement, at least for medical, the training, just to make sure that it matches the HLO statute. And we're not just leaving it as a general supervisory license. Audrey? Oh, this is Mitch, sorry for the transcriptions. This is Audrey. So this is different than the generalist and supervisory from my view, because this specifies RID certification. The generalist and supervisory are other options as well. There's BEI, there's EITA, but this specifically narrows it down only to RID certification qualifications. So another criticism on this, the medical specialty, there's nothing about the medical specialty at all here. It's all just very working in a medical setting. So Christina Healy's understanding, her perspective and feedback as well, I think I agree with her, is why is there no mention of the medical specialty at all here? It's just the medical language, no medical skills or whatnot. So the resolution for today, as a board, I don't think we're going to be able to come to a finding. I think we just can leave it general and vague just for now, and then let the RAC figure out the specifics.
Colleen's giving a thumbs up. So is Eric.
And this is Mish. I agree with that concept, leaving it general and vague, but at the same time, I do feel like the RID certification itself is also very narrow. So if this license has a specialty, we basically are saying that RID is better than BEI, is better than EIPA 4.0. But RID certification is not medical related. So why are we narrowing it only on
Colleen's
RID?
saying, I agree.
It's not just saying the requirement is generalist or supervisory. So why don't we just leave it as that requirement, generalist, supervisory? I mean, I still feel like we need to add medical, the 60-hour
Colleen is saying yes,
training at least.
and Audrey's saying, can we do something today?
Well, it's because AHLO has already set up the 60-hour training requirement. So I feel like we can just transfer that over easily.
OHA.
It's OHA, not.
Oh, OHA. Oh, Eric corrected me. OHA. Thank you. So I guess my suggestion is we leave it as general. And then that line A, certification in ASL from RID should be deleted and replaced with must have generalist and or supervisory licensure and the 60-hour training medical background.
Well, number 3 says what the first part, must hold an active. And this is Sammy, this is for all the other situations that may happen where you don't have to have the HCI license. So it's for all, I don't know what they are, but so I don't know if that's a different set of standards. I mean, sounds like you just want to duplicate exactly what they say. So maybe you just say that, hold that license, that credential, and that's how you get the medical. That's what I recommended before, said Colleen. Okay, go ahead.
So it seems like with this language, it's related to the generalist and supervisory. That's number 3. So that means we should delete number 4 and
Yes.
yeah, just delete number 4. And then add OHA's 60-hour training and just leave it like that. This is Colleen.
Eric is saying something about something, isn't there already something about a 60-hour? The qualified and certified, there's a difference between so the certified require you to have the 60-hour training and the qualified doesn't. So
Both.
This is Colleen. I like how you proposed number 3, supervisory and generalist. And then the 60-hour training. I mean, well, some people are resistant with the 60-hour training, and that's required. And it was an approved training, which some community members have said the cost was over $500, $600 for that 60-hour training. So is there a way to show that they have a medical background in general that's not on the approved list? Like maybe MIT has, somebody has an
MHIT.
or some other type of,
Idaho also has theirs that hasn't been approved. So is there other ways that we can satisfy this and broaden it out? Just for, like broaden out even maybe for mental health, like the OCHI, their, whatever their approved list.
so the total of 60 hours could be just medical, like including mental health CEUs, for instance. And maybe not all through OHCI courses. Yeah, they could be courses, they could be workshops, they could be trainings. Yeah, instead of having to follow the 60-hour OHA approval list, because that's very restrictive for sign language interpreters. Yes, Eric has a comment. It's Eric again. So with the medical OHA license, you have two kinds. You've got the qualified and then you have the certified. Now the certified requires 60-hour courses. The qualified does not. It only requires the RID certification. And that's how OHA set up the requirement for RID. They didn't accept the QMHI and other certifications. That was RID's thing. And so that's why I say leave it as is, move forward. And this is Colleen now. And Sammy, did you have your hand up?
Trying to read HCI stuff, but. So maybe.
This is Eric again.
Maximize your word.
Sorry, I don't want to say leave it as is. Bish and I were talking about number 4, or where was it? 4A or A? Remove that line. Yeah. Because that will
Are you talking about
make it
remove
4A.
4
I'd say
total?
4A.
Okay, just get rid of 4A.
It would make it more possible to just have it a little more general, because when you say RID, then that means RID certifications only. But if you're talking about later on considering QMHI or whatever, then if we set it up kind of vague right now, then maybe we can be more inclusive for other certifications later.
And then give it to the RAC committee.
Give it to the RAC. Colleen, I know that Sammy's had her hand up several times. Sammy, did you have a comment?
Do you think that somebody should get this license if they hold the generalist or supervisor and have 60 hours of some kind of medical education, whether it's the 60 hours from HCI or all the other places that you said? And then do you
Yes.
have like some description?
Another comment?
We're just thinking that's a starting place.
Eric,
That
no?
was qualified. That they had taken the 60 hours, but right now have a full HA.
This is Colleen. Can I, wait, Eric. So question for you. You're saying no. So does that mean we can word it in a way where A or B? So A is the 60-hour mental health courses, training, workshops, what have you, CEUs, whatever. Or the currently a holder of OHCI
And
certification
Eric said either
or
qualified
HA
or certified.
or certified OHA certificate.
The certified requires 60 hours.
The CCHI, all the other stuff, all the other letters.
So
We can
right
put
now-
that under B.
right now, we include 60 hours.
Yes, come here, why don't you come up, come here, Eric. Coming up here now. Right now, if we require the 60 hours, then we exclude those people who are quote unquote qualified. So if we require that 60-hour training, That's the certification requirement.
Do you think they should have
I know
more
the wording
training
is confusing.
than what's required by FCA?
Great. Hold on.
Compared to what's required from the OHA.
This is Colleen, no. Playing musical chairs today. This is Eric here right next to you. This is Colleen. So you don't want to make it more restrictive. So
Right.
we want to leave it more open. And right now, we have some interpreters who've expressed frustration that OHA's requirements is very restrictive. And that you can only do a certain amount of courses. You can't do other things that are related to the medical field. And so it's a catch-22. If we try to keep it open, we can't do that without this 60-hour requirement.
So the qualifying license to get that renewed is every 4 years. And after 4 years, it expires. And as you approach that, or during that time, you can get the 60 hours.
That's me. I'm a qualified.
And I'm someone that just missed, it expired because
Audrey wants to clarify something. Come on up here, Audrey.
I have not taken the 60-hour course yet. It says 60 hours is wonderful.
Well, that's grandfathered in for those who signed up to be grandfathered in.
Oh, sorry. It's there. So there have been many changes throughout the time in terms of the medical license and the requirements.
The
And
standards have
since
bumped up.
2020, it was established that you could get the qualification if you are certified by RID. But what Audrey just showed me, the screen says you could be qualified or certified, doesn't matter. You're still going to be required to take that 60-hour course. Training.
So this is Colleen. So basically, it's really a moot point that we can't have the medical license without OHA for work. I mean, so right now, I think we should just leave it to the RAC to take care of, and maybe they can fix it. Oh, Heather, you have your hand up.
Really quick, we're gonna do interpreter switch. Wait, that's
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Really?
We're gonna be.
So this is Heather. So doing it through the rack, is an idea for moving forward with this. You can also, the rack could consider, you could consider having it be something on renewal. That they have to do the 60 hours, and that would give you some time as to get further clarification on what you would like to see here, and also get further clarification on how you do or don't want that to mesh up with the HCI Oregon Health Authority aspect, being on their registry. So doing it on renewal is another possibility to think of, either via the RAC or for your rulemaking.
So I would like to suggest moving on and let the RAC committee figure out the renewal process. Just for now, we're gonna leave it as is, right? Because that would provide less barriers. But Audrey is saying, let's remove it, sure. Okay. We just get rid of that. But what?
Submit.
Submit.
Oh, I'm putting it back. Hold on. Man, really? Let me just go back and copy and paste it. just exactly what was in the rule before. I deleted it.
Yeah.
Recount. Oh, this thing. It's every time.
So this is Colleen. So I feel that the way it is now, we recognize OHA's qualification, being qualified and certified, and that's a way to, a path to get a medical license, correct? And we should just leave it, right?
That's what was in the proposals.
I don't feel that we don't need to prove that we have our ID certification because we've already done that for supervisory and generalist. Why would we need to do it again? Sammy, can we just remove that part? There's no reason to have to prove it twice because we've already proven that previous to this, getting the supervisory or generalist. And then having this as a secondary endorsement or specialty license, you know, it means it's not a standalone kind of license.
Then does that mean they have to do the B? You take out A?
Supervisor, generalist, or.
No. you have to be supervisor and generalist. Oh, but that's required. This was written to capture as many people as we could. Big, everyone.
Says or.
No.
The mission thing, I think we should hold this because we need to move on to specialty license, so we need at least go up there.
We're gonna keep this then?
Keeping. Sorry, what's that?
Are we keeping this?
I don't know.
Good answer, Paul. Good.
We have 25 minutes left. This is Mish, and we've had a deep discussion about medical, but also legal. I think we need to save this for later and focus on the three main licenses. Because we've already talked about supervisory and generalist, but we haven't yet talked about the provisional. And I suspect that that will also require some time, so. I know we don't have a lot of time left, so maybe should we focus on provisional?
And Colleen says, yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
There is
let's move on.
over- But they, all their stuff, none of it has links. So.
Spoken language.
No. Okay, so I added here I need to renumber it, letter A, the supervisor remote, on-site or remotely, directly or indirectly. We have more than one supervisor, so you already did that. And then.
Over the legal on here.
Yeah, well,
Then we go back to the legal.
so here.
We're on that page with the supervisory or the,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry, provisional license.
We just need to quickly go over the
18.
legal. You could set medical up like this. 40 hours of education, in medical interpreting.
Yeah, we
Or
could.
qualified or certified.
And she's nodding her head, yes.
Eric's saying, yes, please.
We can put it to the rack and then they can decide for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Lauren says, yeah.
Everyone's okay with that? Oh, one thing. Do you want me to leave the American Sign Language Proficiency interview? That would be the last word.
There was so many comments about that.
So, and do you mind, sorry, this is Mish. Do you mind typing it out?
No, I don't
See
mind.
what that would look like? Because that or,
Yeah,
Want to know what it looks like.
yes.
yeah, we want to know what it takes. Oh, I don't know. Generalist or supervisory is what Audrey's saying.
Colleen saying, but on top of the medical training. Oh,
But it does say or, is what Audrey's saying. So it's not an and.
well, Colleen saying the other options, you know, or and. Same. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit to the provisional license. We can add direct and indirect. We can add that, but when we look, I was looking at that and I noticed the provisional license doesn't require any kind of assessment of interpreting or knowledge. It doesn't have any kind of requirement. So for me, you need to have direct supervision. You can't have indirect. Because maybe there's somebody from an ASL 202 class just going out and interpreting without anybody watching them. We can't allow that. So I feel that needs to be
Eric's nodding.
revised. We need to remove the word indirect
Yeah.
for provisional. Colleen thing. Page 19A says. Wait, Misha's saying, I'm up to the camera. Hi, this is Colleen. I'm looking at page 19. Is that 19 on the screen? No, it doesn't. No. But it says, A says,
May only provide sign language interpreting services under the supervision of a person holding a SLI supervisory license or a sign language interpreter generalist license.
so the first part, it's providing and then also receiving. You Mish, right?
It's following what you're meaning by providing is receiving.
Provisional means, you know, you have to have a supervisor. So it would be either the generalist or a supervisory license. But what about educational? Should educational as well? Because
Oh,
some
right.
areas, right, Eric, only have educational.
You can't use education is what Eric said. Remember that whole thing? That's my frustration with the provisional license. Is it's no good for my whole entire region because you can't, you know, you cannot have a person that's on a provisional working on an educational license. Or in an educational setting. We don't have, we have, you know, we're gonna have provisional people in the area, so.
We don't have any provisional people in our
Finish. You don't have provisional? So for the provisional license, could we say anyone can just go ahead and get a provisional license? I mean, that's basically what it's saying now. There are no requirements in terms of EIPA or certification or any knowledge, ethical knowledge. So maybe where?
They're saying, yeah, there is. Audrey's saying, page 20, page 20.
Page, my bad. I was wondering. I
Candy?
see
Yeah.
it.
Tammy has her hand raised.
It's been a long day. So my comment about direct and indirect, drop that. Tammy, calling on Tammy.
This is Tammy. That's okay. We got there because I'm like, no, down here it says EIPA 3.5 and that's all you need to work in Oregon. So never mind. I'm gonna put my hand down. So yeah.
Audrey has her hand up. Coming up. Sammy. That line, could we please remove maybe PSE, yes, and ASL? Could we condense that into one line, A and B?
Sure. Yeah, Eric's saying more vague, the better. Let's do that.
Yeah. It's like.
This is Tammy. I like that, Audrey. The only thing that it would have to be though is with the
They're saying I'd
provisional.
like to delete the whole thing, but no, we're good.
What, Karen?
Sorry, I was talking out loud. Didn't you do the same for E and F?
They're different levels. Those are.
Well, couldn't you say or?
There's three.
Basic or two or three? I was just thinking.
Like actually different certifications.
It's a good time for a switch. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
My rules. Okay, page 20.
19.
And we're looking at D.
It says may not supervise any other person. Page 20. Go ahead, James. Good night. D. Says may not supervise any other person. That's not in the statute. So I'm curious how that was added. Well, provisional.
Well, it's provisional is what Colleen's saying. So
I can.
Can a provisional supervise somebody? What's happening?
Yeah.
So it would be two supervisors?
and this is Colleen.
Let's let her finish.
Yeah.
My thought is for cultural considerations. I did, okay. Circumstances.
Okay, it's been a long day, so. Want to make sure that so when we set this up, if there's a special circumstance or special situation for a deaf interpreter and not just a supervisory license,
But if a deaf person, if we set up this special, this extenuating circumstance for, let's say a new deaf interpreter comes into the field, that means, okay, so I think I'm overthinking this right now. And I really think I'm like trying to keep the future in line right now, but I feel like we just should keep it as vague as possible right now. I guess that's what I'm thinking. Did the law say provisional can't supervise other people? So for example, if someone has a provisional license and they can't work with an intern, they can't work with a person that has a deaf specialty license. So if it's not in the law, maybe just don't add it to the rule. That's all I'm saying. I'm concerned that it will impact and make things more complicated in the future.
This is Colleen. I'm kind of neutral on this one right now.
This is Mitch. It was just a thought that I was having. It's something I think that we've discussed before.
Colleen is going on Bob. Bob, go ahead.
So this is what the statute says. It says may provide sign language interpretation services only under the supervision of a licensed supervisory sign language interpreter. So
Who would be the supervisor in that situation? That the special license and supervision would be.
I'm just saying, who would be the supervisor in that situation when you had a deaf interpreter with a specialty license, and then you have a provisional license together, or they're two provisional licenses.
Can't dual rule.
So, Mitch is saying someone can't dual role is what you're saying. They can't be a supervisor and a supervising.
The lawyer is shaking their head. I'm sorry. That's fine.
So I'm saying it violates how it is stated now in the law. So if we have a provisional person and and if we had a person that was working under a deaf specialty license, I'm saying that as the law is right now, wait, hold on. I think I'm thinking of this wrong. Hold on.
Eric's saying,
Because it doesn't say on-site supervision, right?
right, yes.
That, okay, okay.
Colleen, both, yes. Saying that, yeah.
So,
we
okay,
can leave
got it. No,
Leave it?
sorry.
I think we need to vote on it. We just gotta leave it. We gotta leave it. I was just thinking, this is me, Eric, coming up.
Hendon,
Good, then I'll voice.
no, you're good.
This is Eric, I'm Bull and China Shop.
So, on the list of accepted, proof of holding a credential from the following under 5H, page 20.
Audrey, which page?
Page 20. 5, and it's the second H. Not the bold one. It says Ghastly, interpretation, general knowledge exam. And so what I understand that to mean is somebody can take the written test, and it doesn't say pass. It just says, oh, just list the
Holding.
test. What's that?
Holding a credential from.
So does that mean they passed the
Oh, I see what you're saying.
test?
That's different than holding a credential, isn't it?
And then I asked that, and especially where I'm in the K-12 arena, and the EIPA also has a written test.
They're different.
Right.
Is
The APA
one-
is a test, right?
There's a written test and there's a written portion and a performance portion.
But
of
they're
the
tests,
EIPA. Yeah,
not certifications.
they are tests, just
Right.
like Castly. Castly is a test.
So I'm picking up, what you're putting down. I fixed this somewhere.
And
Some other
so-
version.
So that's what I was just trying to clarify, is if we can accept Castly's written test as a minimum credential can we use the EIPA's written test as a minimum credential? And I have a feeling.
This is Mish. They're different. They're very different. They're different.
And sorry,
That's what this says.
my comment might be the end of the day comment, because as I'm thinking about it, more provisional doesn't even apply to education, so. Excuse my comment.
But you can, because you can have an EIPA, BSc, ASL,
tried.
1.5 or above, or the CAS.
So,
Sort of like
so maybe a question is, why would we accept any EIPA score if it can't be used in education?
because of the previous law.
Go ahead.
Because this is Mish. It's law in the state of Oregon, so that's why.
Go ahead, Colleen saying, go ahead.
Oh, darn it. Okay, I just wanted to clarify the EIPA written test does not take in any receptive language skills, and the new CASLI knowledge, it's not called a written, it's called a knowledge test. It has stuff for ASL and English receptive comprehension to evaluate that. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah, nothing.
Lisa, should we move on?
Move on.
Let's move on,
Yeah,
right?
This is Eric. Let's move on. So, I'm exhausted. I'm sorry. You only said you two, Judge.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it and the last one is the specialty license. So
All I'm saying,
removing.
we gotta skip it.
Just to clarify, we're not skipping it, but we're actually removing it. Colleen says, yes, I agree.
Yes, that's correct. Eric said, yeah, that's right.
Because removing
Yeah, because it's not legal, so we can't keep it. We gotta get rid of it.
The training license, page 22, correct.
It's 22.
So, hold on, I found my information.
We have 6 minutes left.
So, we have
So
found
what?
that because the way the law is written regarding specialty, the board being able to create specialty licenses, the specialty license is based on that base license, the generalist or the supervisor. So it's that base, and then what from there makes it special. So medical makes it special, legal makes it special, government might make it special, or community activism makes it special. So, and because in the education setting, because it says that only education license holders, supervisor, or generalist, this is trying to kind of get around that, and the law is very specific that those people cannot work in education. So this is out, but we have a waiver, and the rep is going to visit all of these issues.
Thumbs up. Yours says thumbs up, or it says thumbs up.
This is
Move on.
being deleted. That's what I'm getting at. Okay. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve the rules with changes, not the rules with changes. Let's see, I'm gonna make those changes.
This is Mitch. I move to accept the rules with changes. Eric,
The
second.
changes we made today, I second that. Colleen, and this is Eric, I second. Or third, or fourth, or whatever. Oh,
All the roll. Eric.
so. Good.
Can't second.
Can't, can't.
Jack, are you out there?
Vice President.
Jack,
Jack?
are you on?
I don't see it. But it's really bad.
Eric second.
We get an email to him? Or check email?
Yeah, he's not on here. Or he said, I think he said he would be in his appointment right now. 2:30 to 4.
Oh,
We
okay,
have quorum, we've satisfied
fine.
quorum,
Yeah,
yeah, right?
Just call the.
so we're all here? Okay, good. Let's do it. Yeah, we passed
Call
on.
the roll. Call the roll.
Agree. Aye. Eric, aye. Nish, aye. Tammy,
Hi.
Jack,
Not here.
not here, me.
John, very good. The rack can be very, very good. Okay, well, do we want to give a few minutes? to comments? Now with the public comment.
Audrey has to leave.
Yeah,
There's still pretty.
it's calling 3 minutes. 3 minutes, go. Public comment, let's open that up.
Public have anything to say? Unmute yourself and say it.
Can you stop sharing?
Emergency.
Oh, there, chat.
Can you stop sharing?
Sure. Back just back. But after.
Are you muted? Joey, are you on mute?
Stop sharing.
What do you sign?
Are you a signer, Joey?
So, yeah, sorry, my name is Joanne Davis. I'm an interpreter for various settings. And I have a concern with the supervisory and generalist when it comes to the educational. I feel like if we can add some, yeah, go
Joey,
ahead.
sorry to interrupt, but you're a little muffled, so need a little bit more clear. We can hear you.
Okay, let me go to a different room, sorry. Okay, can you hear me better?
Keep going.
Does anyone else?
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Joey, we can hear you.
Or
Okay,
email.
so I sent in an email about possibly separating your evidence to supervisory.
We can't hear you good enough, Joey. Here, this is Colleen. Can you do us a favor? Can you email your comment?
I did email a comment to Tammy and she told me the comments were shut down, that I had to come to.
What I'm getting is that you just said you emailed your comment to Sammy.
I did last week, yeah, Monday, I think. And it's from,
Joanna.
no, it's from Nikki Garrett, from Joanne Davis.
What it says on the screen.
This is Colleen speaking. Is there anyone else that wants to make a comment? We can't understand you, Joey. Sorry. Joanne or Joanna? Joey, you'll have to email.
Joanne Davis. I did email on Monday.
Okay.
I sent a concern and a
Here it is.
clarification regarding,
Sammy found it.
okay, yeah, if that could be considered, I would, yeah, or read that out, somebody could read that out, that'd be great.
But usually, I think that the board decided at the first meeting that people could submit comments, but they needed to be at the meeting to actually provide them.
Share and fair.
I can read it. You want me to?
Just, yeah, sorry, share the email maybe, or just summarize it.
Yes, so she'd like to see the board possibly discuss the separation of educational license supervisory and supervisory license. So we already know that's not, can't do that with statute. There just been a heated discussion.
Yeah, this whole, yeah.
Let's have it separate, can't do that.
Education doesn't require supervision. Right, we
Right.
emphasize that already.
That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Okay, to clarify, does that clarify for you, Joey?
Any other comments? Are we gonna be closing the meeting?
Okay, meeting adjourned.
No, she has to read it out. You have to read it out.
Oh, hold on.
Where's my script?
Meeting adjourned at 3:00.
The Board of Sign Language Interpreters meeting is adjourned at 3:00 p.m.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Successful day.